What are you talking about?
Remember that guy that I told you about? Home from high school. My first boyfriend.
Yeah? I remember you said he got married.
He did. And then he wasn't. And I saw him at this bar, and his wife left him a couple months ago, so we were hanging out, and I sort of let him go back in time a little bit.
Did you sleep with him or just kiss him?
I slept
Okay, fine.
with him for 10 seconds, and then I stopped it, and I came straight back to you. I don't know, maybe this was just one crazy moment before us. Because I love you, Joshua. I love you.
That's not love. That's guilt. Love is trust.
So it is.
That's all it is. That's the only currency, and you broke
No,
it.
this isn't your website manifesto. Love is lots of things.
Authors from the 50s, especially Alfred Kinsey, elicited some serious reactions with findings that over half of married men and a quarter of married women are involved in some form of infidelity in their relationship by the age of 45. The reactions to these statistics were understandable given the sanctions against extramarital affairs at the time, thereby making the rates higher than what was expected. The data or research on infidelity is particularly limited, mostly due to definition problems. What is infidelity really? And what is it not? Who determines what infidelity is and is not? Particularly, dating relationships often lack emotional and sexual exclusivity, or at least the expectation is not as strong as it is in marriage, and as such, it could be quite complicated to try explain what infidelity is and is not. The rules of dating became increasingly unclear with the sexual evolution of the 60s and 70s. The revolution, which followed the invention of contraception and legalization of abortion, witnessed a significant decline in the length of relationships, basing romantic or intimate relationships on sex, the decline of shotgun marriage, and increased ease of terminating relationships. The rules of infidelity in marriage are quite clearer, even though cheating is more common among younger couples, presumably because of the difficulties adjusting to the monogamy expectation in marriage after having an extended period of having multiple partners. Some of the most common terms used for infidelity include having an affair, extradiatic involvement, being unfaithful, and cheating. A lot of people limit cheating to engaging in sexual activity with someone other than the primary partner. However, hardly would anyone be happy when their partner is spending so much time with someone else or being emotionally involved with them. Research generally divides the definition of infidelity into two. First, a lot of studies focus on defining the term, which requires the inclusion of synonyms such as being unfaithful. Some studies suggest that over a third of college students don't place the label of sexual partner on a person they performed oral sex on. Second, studies utilize open definitions of cheating, which of course vary from one person to the next. For most people, spending a lot of time with a member of the opposite sex is not exactly desirable. Over 90% of people agree that any form of physical sexual contact with another person is infidelity. Sex often yields the consensus of being cheating. The definition of infidelity is especially important in research when determining the prevalence, since broad definitions yield higher estimates, while the opposite is true for narrow ones. Studies involving nationally representative samples of married people are thought to be more accurate in estimating the prevalence of cheating. Some of the samples dating as back as the 90s suggest that 25% of married men and 15% of married women have had at least one experience of extramarital sex in their lifetime. Dating relationships are kind of shorter compared to marriages, which informs the assumption that they could report reduced levels of infidelity because they only exist in the honeymoon phase of any relationship. However, Dating women are more likely to have an extra-pair relationship compared to married women, especially due to the high degree of non-formal commitment, as well as the fact that they are in their prime, which means they have access to a lot of potential suitors. Generally, college students and other young adults have more social opportunities to get together and meet new people. A person so low on commitment presented with numerous opportunities to have an extra-pair partner is a recipe for disaster. Married people are also less likely to admit to infidelity because the transgression is viewed as more serious. Some studies estimate that 69% of college students engage in some form of infidelity at some point in their college life, even though the definitions in such studies do include flirting and kissing as part of the definition of infidelity. The rates of infidelity decline as the definitions of infidelity become more physical. For instance, some studies suggest that 65% of men and 39% of women have engaged in extra-pair kissing, while 35% of men and 12% of women actually go on to engage in sexual intercourse with someone other than the primary partner. Other studies suggest that 90% of men and 81% of women flirt with people who are not their primary partner, but fewer than 45% of men and 38% of women end up having extra-pair sex. Men are more likely than women to report having experienced all forms of infidelity known to man, except kissing and oral sex, where the rates are similar to women's. Worth pointing out is the fact that the social construction of sex makes women less willing to disclose engaging in infidelity, while the opposite is true for men who might want to exaggerate it a bit. Men consistently report a higher number of sexual partners compared to women, with the social presentation of sex with regards to both genders playing a serious role in the discrepancies, popularly known as self-presentation bias. This bias accounts for variations in the definitions of infidelity, thereby leading men to over-report and women to under-report. In surveys where the questions ask about lifetime rates, men are more likely to round up their numbers than women. Studies that have sought to address issues with self-presentation bias have found no gender differences in cheating. Sampling bias in infidelity research arises from men having relations with women who were typically younger, thereby largely excluded from samples. Also, men engage in extra-pair relations with unattached women by lying about their relations, or a small group of women fooling around with a large number of men. Some studies support the notion of once a cheater always a cheater, with 86% of men and 62% of women reporting having engaged in extra-pair sexual activity repeatedly. 72% of women and 77% of men are of the opinion that their partner's actions could significantly influence the course of a relationship. 63% of both men and women who have betrayed their partner report feeling guilty about it. Those in committed relationships are more likely to express high levels of guilt compared to those in open relationships or those who are just having casual sex. One of the most common reactions to infidelity, especially based on the feelings of being betrayed, is terminating the relationship with the transgressor. 44% of people who have been cheated on terminate the relationship they're in with the transgressor, while a further 16% consider terminating the relationship. Half of people with marital problems blame them on infidelity, with partners in those relationships where both are cheating perceiving the other's transgression as more severe than their own. Women who engage in infidelity are more likely to blame themselves for the dissolution of their primary relationship, while men blame their infidelity on their partners more than themselves. Individuals who terminate their relationships or marriages due to infidelity experience less depression than those who terminate them for other reasons. Affairs do not result in relationship termination on their own. Additional reasons that determine whether a relationship is terminated or not after infidelity include the overall level of satisfaction in the relationship, the motives uncovered for infidelity, the extent of conflict resulting from infidelity, and the attitudes held regarding the long-term outcomes of infidelity. Over half of those who have been cheated on sit down with their partner and discuss the whole incident with the hopes that they will understand where they're coming from, or at least some form of closure before they leave. Some studies suggest that the first response to the uncovering of infidelity is terminating the primary relationship, with less than a quarter ending up separated. Half of individuals who threaten to leave actually stay to give the relationship another chance, try change their mind about their partners, or try figure out the most effective action moving forward. Jealousy is a common reaction to infidelity or threatened infidelity. Some studies suggest that heterosexual men are more likely to report being upset by infidelity compared to any other group, including heterosexual women and people in same-sex relationships. The fact that people who imagine cheating report more remorse and other negative emotions, compared to those who actually cheat, implies that cheaters feel more justified engaging in their behavior, or at least are more accepting of the behavior as an approach to reducing cognitive dissonance.